because liquidity was tight, B, government spending was low. And yet, I mean, if a company is really delivering and growing at 40%, imagine if you're growing at 40%. I'm talking about the PPOP. You are actually doubling in less than 2 years. So they are actually doubling the PPOP in less than 2 years. Vinnie Mehta, Director General with ACMA, joins us now. He, of course, represents, we'll be talking to him about tariff, we'll be talking to him about implications and how should one really look at the new normal in the world. So, Mr. Mehta, good morning. Thank you for joining us. What is the ground reality? I mean, I'm getting all kinds of crazy opinions, views that some companies have stopped production, some have doubled up the production, some are confused. What is the reality?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I think one of the reasons why I'm very reluctant to be in media these days is because I honestly do not have an answer to that. But I think some semblance will prevail. I think, I guess there's a realization now that, over too much of, focus on tariffs at the US is leading to a lot of problems, not just for the whole world, but for them too also. So I guess, President Trump is being seen to make some concessions. On Friday, he made a concession for the semiconductors and for computers and for laptops. And on 14th of April, he announced concession. He would give concession for the car and the auto part industry, deferring the 25% tariff that he sort of imposed on the auto and the auto parts on February the 26th. So I do not know how much of a reprieve and for how much time, but there's an announcement and we are actively waiting for an order from the US government to this effect. Yeah.
Let's understand India's dependence or India's auto ancillary sectors dependent on US. How large is that number? Is that a significant number? Is that a number which can change the dynamics of the industry? Because, there are a lot of opinions again here. Every listed auto stock tends to move because of this whole tariff news. What is the total India dependence on US if the tariff war is real?
Yeah, so the size of the auto component manufacturing industry in India is 74 billion US dollars, okay? And we are a fairly export competitive industry. We export over 30% of our produce. So our export is $21.2 billion. I talk about this for FY24. FY25 numbers are awaited, okay? And our export and import go hand in hand, and our import is $20.9 billion. Last year, we had a modicum of surplus of 300 million US dollars, okay? Having said that, being a very export competitive industry, we export 30% of our export basket goes to the US. That's close to $7 billion. And another $7 billion goes to the European Union. And 80% of our export goes to OEMs and tier 1s. So both US and the European Union are very important market for us, but also please try and understand the domestic market size that is $74 billion is a huge cushion for us because, the domestic market is also very, very robust and is doing reasonably well given the times in what we are today.
The other thing is, of course, what segments within auto components also are most sort of, prone to tariffs, if I can call it that?
Well, I would say it's very interesting that the export basket that we have mimics exactly the entire production basket that we have. And traditionally, our export competence to put somewhat looking for 60,000 feet above the ground is our competence in castings and forgings. This would be probably, this is a very generic definition of the competence in some sense, but what we export very significantly is engine parts, drivetrains, transmissions, also some amount of chassis, some electrical. So this is the typical export basket that we have. And I would say of these, the engine parts and drive transmission would be the most dominant.
Right. Good morning, Mr. Mehta. This is Shrishti also
Yeah.
joining in. But help
Yeah.
us understand that how are companies balancing the rising cost due to the trade tensions? How are they likely to act on that? Are they likely to pass on the hike to the global OEMs? Or will it lead to some margin compromise, at least in the near term?
So honestly, it's too early to comment on it. People are still trying to grapple with it because the tariffs and the announcements are changing almost every single day. Okay. Having said that, Nikunj said, there's a lot of confusion. First of all, there's a lot of confusion at the ports itself because there is still no clarity on what all categories will the tariffs apply, because auto is also cars, auto is also entry level, the pickup trucks, it's also the commercial vehicles. Then in a broader definition, you also have the construction equipment and the farm equipment and the earth moving equipment. So there's still clarity that's dawning on them, on us, as we navigate the whole system, or the new system, if I may say so. Now, let's say if there was a company that, say an Indian company that's exporting to an Indian entity that's clearing the goods out of customs, and obviously they cannot absorb 25% of the hit that they have. So probably they've stopped exports at this juncture. It's wait and watch. There are some customers who've been extremely nice and who have probably absorbed it and cleared the goods. There are certain customers, and I hear customers would be the OEMs and tier ones that I'm talking of. Some of them are sort of coming back and saying that, hey, this is too much to absorb. We need to share it out. So I think a method will emerge in due course. Every entity will deal with it in a different manner because honestly, I mean, you track our industry so well, and 25% is no way that anybody can absorb, whether it is in India, whether it is in the US. Our average EBITDA margins are 12.5%. The better performing companies, they'll be in the 16, 18, 20% range, but nobody can absorb 25%. A method would eventually emerge. Depending upon how they apportion this cost, there will be some cost apportion to, say, the suppliers, some to the assembler or the vehicle manufacturer or the tier one whoever we are exporting to, and then some of it will be passed on to the consumer. So mathematics will emerge in due course. It's still very, very fluid because as of 14th April, the announcement has been that the auto and the auto component tariffs will be deferred, but there's no order as yet on this front.
Okay. All right, sir. Appreciate your time. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us. And hopefully next time when we speak, we'll have clarity, we'll have some answers and little confusion.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.